welcome to Thoughts in the Green Room with your host, Jeff Mays. This week's topic, well, it's not really a topic, it's an interview. It's the first live interview on Thoughts in the Green Room ever, and I have with me all the members of Spiderclown, I want to say Industries, but I don't think that.
Studios.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
One
studio.
day.
Oh, yeah, one day. So
One day
Spiderclown's
will be
fine.
Industries.
Yeah, one day you'll be Industries.
Like Oscorp.
Yes.
It's a whole franchise.
Yeah, like the evil empire.
And you'll have to hire me, of course, to do your interviews
Sure,
and,
sure.
and, of
Exactly.
course, to act in all of your major feature films.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So, welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
The easy thing for Spiderclown Studio, ladies and gentlemen, is for us to start with some basic introductions. On my left, I've got
Sure. I am Nick Ben.
Far.
Oh, me.
Right,
Oh,
yeah,
jeez,
you.
I wasn't ready.
The host guide.
I'm James Young.
And I'm Michael Davison.
And you guys make up Spiderclown Studio. So,
Yes, we do.
I guess the first question, how'd you guys meet?
Film
Cool.
school.
It's
Yeah.
kind of
it's
a
not
very short, quick answer, but
Short
yeah.
and sweet.
It's
Okay,
not that cool a
works.
story.
No,
It's
no.
just
It
school.
sort of came out of the fact that we sort of gravitated to working on certain projects in school. Like especially Nick and I, we liked the same sort of stuff. We had a similar sort of style.
We like the weird stuff.
Weird sci-fi
People gave a
genre
shit for
stuff, and they did give a shit for doing it. And then I met Michael in his third year, and I was in my fourth year. And then we started working together in the summer after I graduated. And then it sort of just was like, oh yeah, you're really good. Let's collaborate as instead of a twosome, make it a threesome.
Is that an innuendo there? You just
No.
We'll let you
What
do
could
that.
What could it possibly mean? There's three of us.
Well, there's four of us right now. So.
Yeah, well, I guess that makes us a farce.
Over the class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is so going downhill. We're on
No,
the
it's
first
perfect.
question.
No, it's
Great.
perfect.
YouTube's gonna flag us immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like playing golf. Come on.
Yeah.
Relax.
So you guys met in school.
Yeah.
Start off with you two. You
Mhm.
joined in the party a little bit later. And where'd the name come from?
That was from my end. A friend of mine back home in Calgary, he is deathly afraid of clowns and spiders, and so I was joking around with him in high school saying, hey, one day I'm going to start a production company that you will hate. And he didn't believe me, and then in 2011 we got incorporated as Spiderclown Studios, and he's like, you bastard.
That's hilarious.
You bastard.
You took your friends' two
Yeah.
worst nightmares and,
And
put
it's,
them
and
into
it's stuck. Like we've been talking about. I've always been open about changing the name because there's something that I did. Like I did originally as a joke.
Right.
But nothing ever better has come out.
It was memorable. It's
Yeah.
got a cool
Yeah.
logo.
Yeah, there's Nick designed the logo. You
Sure,
did.
sure.
You did.
I don't remember that, but great.
You did. You sketched it
He was
out.
drunk when he designed
Probably,
it. But,
you
Oh, I
know.
sketched it. Yeah, then you did your...
Yeah, you sketched it.
Yeah,
then
yeah,
I-
yeah,
then I
okay,
made it. Yeah.
Which speaks to a little bit of the function between the three of you. You sketched the logo. He put the logo together in graphics.
Yeah.
Where does everybody
I
sit
accepted
role-wise?
You accepted it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Straight
I
up.
promoted it on Facebook.
You're like, I didn't hate it.
This passes.
So repeat the question.
So where does everybody sit role-wise within this group? Like, do you guys have specific functions? Do you have specific features that you guys bring to the...
Yes and no.
Yeah, that's all I was gonna say.
We kind of when we first started out, we kind of were doing like the multiple hats thing, and then the last couple of years we've kind of really narrowed down to pretty much just kind of 2 roles each.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we've sat into. So like I do writing and directing. Those are my 2 hats that I wear now.
Okay.
As it used to be more.
Way more.
Thankfully, it's not anymore.
Yeah.
James is go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a director producer, and that definitely came off of the fact that when it comes to like doing projects and like writing projects, like I used to want to write as well, but over time we just sort of like it naturally came about that those were my skill sets, and that's I think the same.
Right.
Yeah, and then I'm
Same
kind of
situation.
rounding out that sort of trifecta as a writer producer. So it's
Right.
kind of we double up on each,
Things, yeah.
but
That makes
each
sense.
also a different angle. At the same
Yeah.
time.
Absolutely.
We all have
And
different strengths.
I'm a big proponent of the doubling up and the different strengths because that means that you're looking at things from different angles,
Mhm.
different visions.
Mhm.
You end up with somewhat of an unbiased approach to the work. So I think it's a smart game plan, and it fits your skill sets naturally. It's not like you forced yourselves into these roles, right?
Yeah.
No, actually,
Yeah.
it's one of those natural things too. Like my biggest realization as a filmmaker over the last I guess we we've been really going at it hardcore for like the last 6 years. So I mean, me and Nick, and then you for like the last 4 or 5. I don't remember. But like for me, it was like one of the biggest realizations that I had is that my strength was never writing. It was even though I wrote most of our early stuff, like it was never that was not my strength. My strength was like world building ideas and then directing and producing. Like the business side of things is where I really excelled early on.
And especially the sort of like that idea of bringing the project together, like.
Yeah.
Like I find a lot of the times it's like you almost end up being the glue that kind of holds it together when we get into like production, getting all the moving pieces kind of coming in.
And that's because I don't have a real job. So
yeah.
Real job. What does that mean in today's world, right?
Right? Oh.
So that's interesting. You say you don't have a real job. Do either of you, Nick, Michael, have a real job?
I used to. It's been a couple of years since I've actually had like a legitimate, like a job, as I would call them. I used to work in an office doing like videography and like commercial work like way back when, and that slowly sucked my soul out, and I ran away screaming, and I've been like doing like freelance stuff ever since.
Yeah, no, I do a bit of freelance stuff that's kind of outside of the writer-producer hats. Still kind of lateral movements, like running social media is another big one that I do. Same with like organizing and managing like crowdfunding campaigns is another thing that I've done a lot of. But those ebb and flow in terms of when it's like, oh, it's a job for this month, but then it's not for the rest. And
Right.
Yeah, I was lying. I'm in this similar situation. Like I'm freelancing basically, but it makes me enough that with my sugar mama of a wife, I can focus more of my time on what we're trying to do.
Less the sugar mama of a wife comment. The first answer was bad.
I mean, she knows. I mean, I married her because she makes money.
That's
Not love. Oh God.
we call her the Russian bride, but really, it's...
I was the Canadian husband. Like,
yeah.
I'm trying to get my dual citizenship right now. It's the complete opposite situation. We're like, take me.
Hey, wherever you can fit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. So, between the three of you sound like you've got a pretty good grasp on the getting stuff out there. So if I need a project done, I know where I'm coming, obviously.
Exactly.
When my feature film is finally written, I'll be knocking on your door. And
I won't say no to the knock. I'll probably just say
Good.
no to your face. No, I'm kidding.
Thanks.
I'm kidding, Jeff.
And it's a lot harder to do that, so you got to respect him for it.
Yeah, it is.
Up,
To
buddy.
the face.
I'm kidding, Jeff.
Yes.
I love you.
I know that. I'm going to go.
Oh, no.
No.
Please don't.
And I...
It's not your idea. It's you as a person.
Yeah, the real rejection.
Yeah.
I'll take the idea. No, not you.
Sorry, that was way too harsh. Trying to make a joke and it just came out.
That's why you leave the writing to him.
That's right. That is right. That is right. That is exactly right. I leave it to these two guys.
So, in terms of the work you guys do, is there any specific mandate for what you're trying to put out there?
That's something that actually we've been talking a lot about, like the whole idea of how to brand ourselves and how to kind of get in there, because we started out kind of doing a little bit of everything. We were trying our hand at comedy, web series, TV, film, short films, like kind of the whole breadth. And not to say that we're not still kind of trying some of those things out and kind of seeing what sticks, but we're kind of honing in a little bit more in terms of trying to get more sort of genre and niche audiences, sort of like what we worked on with Speakeasy, where it's like it's a period piece, for example.
Yeah.
That sort of allowed us to kind of stretch kind of each of our own kind of individual passions, and that there was a little bit of the effects, there was a little bit of action in there. It was something that's not your ordinary kind of just like modern day kind of family drama.
Yeah.
And that's the type of stuff that we end up finding that we like the most, and the stuff that we end up writing, where even if it is a modern day thing, it's always got a little bit of a twist, or it's slightly in the future, almost Black Mirror-esque.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which tends to suit the name, from my perspective as an outsider,
Exactly.
a spider clown, right?
Yeah.
You think of a clown, first thing that comes to my mind is that regular image of a clown, but then you put a spider with that and it twists that image a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? That's my mental on it. So.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you're pretty much on. I think we've been sort of really working towards what Michael was talking about for the longest time, and even looking at like our earliest films, that's basically what they are. They're like one of the first student films that Nick and I did together that was worth anything was basically a family drama in space, right? Like, because it was like, yeah, we gotta do the family drama, but like, yeah, let's put it in space, and that was an experiment. Like that was I didn't think we were that successful with that film in terms of like making a short film that's like worth watching, but in terms of learning and in terms of exploring sort of what we enjoy, I think it was successful in that.
Well, it was like just trying something new, because like in film school, like there's always the trend to do like, oh, do what you can get away with and do what's safe.
Yeah.
And it always ends up and they're not saying like they're bad, but it's always like family dramas or like family comedies or like a social comedy. It's always like it always fits into that. And we were like, oh, let's make a sci-fi. And you're like, hey, you ever done the green screen work? I was like, nope. I'm like,
yeah, and
it's
that's
like when everyone's doing 500 Days of Summer, we wanted to do District 9.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly, and you know,
that's more aptly put.
and even then too, it's like it's that sort of exploration that we've been doing all this time is like really trying to find out where our strengths are and like finding out what really works, because a lot of people don't know. Like for instance, how to work with VFX in like a economic way, right? Which we've learned through trial and error of doing it not economically, where I've spent many of my own hours and months slaving away on a frickin' teaser for something that took like 4 months to do the VFX on. And we're thinking when we're shooting this, oh yeah, it's just green screen, it's not a big deal. But like all of the learning, that all the exploration, all the experimentation that we've done over the last like decade has really been helpful, because we know now, don't put more than 5 to 10 VFX shots in a short film if you want it done
within any reasonable time
That's
frame.
right, yeah.
Without spending
And
an
it's
arm and a leg on a studio to.
That's
finish it
right,
for
and
you.
it's like, don't do VFX that requires a lot of effort. Like, if we're talking VFX, like for instance, now called Liquorman, the short that we shot with you last year. But for instance, all the work that I was doing on that one is all cleanup to make sure that it's period.
Right.
So I'm removing things, I'm hiding things. It's not like I'm adding in like a truck to that shot where we had the truck at the end of the night. Like that would have been, it would have killed the project if we didn't actually have a truck there.
Right.
Or like even just trying to get a green screen of the rest of that set there.
Yeah.
It's like we couldn't have.
wouldn't
Thankfully, we were on
Yeah.
a park, so we could get away with the kind of
Yeah, we could-
backdrop and everything.
Yeah. You know, it's really, being economic with your storytelling is also something we've learned over the last recent
Yeah,
recent memory.
like VFX especially, it's one of those things that in indie productions they always put way too much stock in it.
Yeah.
They always seem to think that like, oh yeah, we can get away with this. We'll fix it in post. We'll make it look great. And the problem is like nowadays you have like, if you're watching an indie movie and you're competing with stuff like all the big Marvel franchises, you're competing with studios that are dropping like literally hundreds of $1 million into their VFX. And
Yeah.
unless you're like a maestro, your stuff is not going to look that good.
I agree.
And people are so conditioned. It's not like 20 years ago when we were watching like like when you were watching like The Matrix the first time, everyone was like, "Wow, that's mind blowing." You watch it now, you're like, "Oh yeah, it's pretty good." But
Thank God, it's still pretty good,
It's still
right?
pretty good, yeah.
But
a lot of the VFX
yeah,
you just try to get you're competing with something that is like so much better.
Yeah.
It's not like storytelling, which is like if you have a good script, you have a good director, it's like well made.
Yeah.
That doesn't inherently need like 6 supercomputers rendering out your content.
Well, exactly, and I actually have an interesting point to add on this is about filmmaking. Is like we were taught when we were in school to treat digital like you would treat film. Like the economy of shooting film means every foot of that film costs money.
Right.
So you shoot more, it costs you more money, and so that's lost with digital because it's a hard drive like $200. And you just keep shooting and shooting and shooting and you just so the economy of shooting, I feel it actually hasn't really been learned yet with VFX, because the reason why Jurassic Park still looks amazing, like today, I mean it has its blemishes
It's
and
got
it
its
doesn't,
blemishes,
but the reason why it still looks good and you're not like this is terrible is because there was an economy to the VFX. It cost so much that they made very sure that they couldn't do it otherwise. Right. So that's why it still kind of holds up today, because a lot of the stuff that they could do and had actually all the like the animatronics they used way more trick photography, way more animatronics, and they only used CG when they needed to because it was so expensive to do.
Absolutely.
And I think you have to kind of treat it like that. even now.
I agree with you fully on that. And you go back
Yeah.
to something in terms of the economy of shooting. You go back to one of the great masterpieces, at least in my mind. I think you guys will agree of it in film, which is Jaws.
Mhm.
The forced economy of shooting because they couldn't get the shark
That's
to work.
right.
How do we shoot this without the thing that's
And it
supposed to be in
makes-
every shot?
And it makes it better.
Absolutely,
Right,
it
and
does,
you know,
right?
so these limitations are good, and in fact, that's what in my opinion, the best art in filmmaking comes out of your limitations and sort of facing them head on and finding solutions for those limitations.
You and I are on the same page there. The other thing that I think is important, especially when you're talking indie film versus something like a Marvel that's got billions of dollars to throw at one shot, right?
Yeah.
Is the fact that you've got to tell a good story.
Yeah.
And a lot of films fail these days because it's just CGI crap.
Yeah, I mean, because you can, because it's people will go see that. You know,
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a whole other conversation. Like,
Agreed.
where, like the different markets and how those films actually excel in different markets. So it's not for like a lot of these films are not being made for North American audiences anymore. Like all the Transformers series, those are not made for
that's
North
not for
American
us anymore.
audiences. You know, like,
No.
and that's okay. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm saying that in terms of North American audiences, again, like District 9 is a good example of economy of shooting and VFX. Because like Neil Blomkamp, you gave him a huge budget and he makes like Elysium, which is a piece of crap. But he has like this very contained, challenging sort of situation where he has a decent budget, but he has to really pick and choose his moments, right? Which I think makes anyone a better filmmaker.
And it just helps with even outside of the mechanical side of how these things get put together, even your economy of storytelling itself, where it's, I don't have the money to go all that big, so I've got to write within this kind of box, and how do I make that box the most interesting box we've ever looked at? So that's kind of one of the things that we've been really trying to work on, especially in this past year.
Yep.
Is getting better at keeping our projects not just contained from the mechanical side of things, but also from the storytelling side of things, especially because we're dealing with genre where, you look at something, it's like, tell me, Lord of the Rings in 10 minutes. It's like, well, like, it's a little
got
too
some-
much.
Seriously,
There's the Clerks 2 answer, which is chucks the ring in fire, walks back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then
Lord of the Rings.
the other thing is
Yeah.
like, if you get the 9 and you just do that movie, it's like, well, why is that guy shorter than that guy? Like, what's the
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You get into kind of that kind of
That was a
thing, right?
gross oversimplification.
Oh,
I kind of like it, but
it's true.
It
Yeah,
in a
hits
nutshell,
the
that's
essence.
what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
And what you guys are speaking about is something I fully agree with, is that economy goes back to when I ran my theater company. We didn't have a lot of money. You guys don't have a lot of money for what you're doing right now. We hope that we all have money in our futures to do whatever the hell we want. But back then, it was like my buddy and I who ran the thing were like, black box, couple lights, tell a good story. The audience will fill in the rest with their minds. And Jaws.
Theater's kind of unique in that though, is that you have this going into a theater. There's a bit more.
There's more give.
There's more suspense of belief.
Yeah, I agree.
When you go in, which is really nice. Like there's something about like seeing live shows. Film can't quite replicate
Agreed.
because you're seeing
Fully
an
agree with
actual you're seeing an actual physical person. All the reactions are really actually. It's something film can't quite replicate yet. Although 3D does try.
It tries. It tries. It very much tries.
We all know that's not what it's there for.
No, it's they're still figuring that one out.
Yeah.
Fully. And you've touched on a number of things
Yeah.
there, and
Yeah.
some of that was your past projects. So I'm curious a little bit about what kind of stuff you've done in the past and where you are currently.
Well,
That is a
interesting question. So we did one of the biggest projects that we did was a TV show on a very small, I say big, but like it was a TV show on a very small channel, and we did that last year, basically a few months after we shot the short with you.
Okay.
And that really gave us a lot of good lessons were learned, experiences were had, good and bad, and we sort of that sort of was for me, that was the catalyst for our current journey this year of trying to really find like where we sit in the industry, really find where we want to be in the industry, where we currently are, where we want to be, and that's kind of coming into like our future projects where we are finished. We just picture locked with VFX final. VFX.
Congrats.
Liquorman, which is formerly known as Speakeasy. So that was like yesterday. And so now we're finishing that up. And so that'll be something that we're hopefully going to take to the festival.
Nice.
And then we're shooting at the end of the month or right after TIFF. We don't know yet because of scheduling. We're shooting a short film that's also a little bit experimental in that we're trying to do it in one take. But where we're shooting it in rehearsal and doing all of our timing for that one take beforehand, and then editing it together, and then basically doing a one take from that edit.
That makes sense. Makes sense.
Just emphasizing that prep work that goes into it.
Yeah, and that's very much like what we're trying with this one. Is it's more of like a how much prep work can you put into something to make it slick and make it, because for us, like, this is very much like a director's piece for Nick and I. It's one person on screen the entire time. It's one event. It's gonna be like 3 to 5 minutes long, and it'll hopefully take a few hours to shoot.
Cool.
And and that's sort of us is like our next project. Then we have a couple more scripts that are shorts that are basically done, but we're waiting to see what we're doing with them for funding and all that sort of
stuff that we wait on in this.
Yeah, so we've got a bunch of short films coming up, and then we're working on a few fun feature films, and we're still working on getting another TV series going, and we're still working on getting another couple more TV series going. We've got a lot of
it's still
a lot
all over the place in terms of the medium. So we haven't quite nailed where we're going to land on that.
Nope,
yet.
Haven't nailed whether we're.
But the types of stories that we're telling are definitely much more contained and much more. I don't know what the word is. Like there's emotional depth, but there's not like needless layers of things that we're trying to cram into this kind of 5-minute thing.
They're focused.
Yes.
They're focused.
They're focused. Yeah. Thanks, Nick. Thanks.
Yeah.
I like that. Focused. That sounds brighter.
Yeah.
So
writing director right here. Yeah.
So I know the current project, like the immediate current project, that's slowly winding down. Not so slowly, because we're almost only a couple months left on is Image Killer, right?
Yeah.
So we haven't even touched on that.
Wow. Yeah.
Podcast. That's another one to add in.
That's right. We're doing podcasts. Yeah.
Scripted podcasts.
Yeah.
This was an idea that Nick and I developed together, and then we brought Michael on. We were developing it as like a feature film, and then Mike's like, "What? This is a great idea for something like web-based, because it's about a social media serial killer, image killer.
Right.
The image killer is a social media serial killer.
I've been a piece of that, which
you have been.
Which I've been very
a few
fortunate
episodes.
to be, enjoyed it, and I've heard you guys talk a little bit about the growing fandom that's rising up underneath this thing. So what's that been like for you guys to watch one of your pieces sort of take on a bit of a life of its own?
Really nice.
Yeah,
I was gonna say,
you take it away first, Nick.
Yeah.
It's been really nice to get. The weirdest thing about web I found is like you're getting when you're running. It's not like running a TV show. You're just like release a feature. And people are like, oh yeah, it was great. We loved it. Since we release twice a week, which is for a series is a fair bit, but it's you're getting like real time feedback from people, like their thoughts or comments, like what's coming in, like fan theories or comments and stuff like that. It's a kind of interaction you don't get, and we haven't experienced. Well, I haven't experienced anywhere else. Anything we've done, it's been fun. It's just cool.
The best part about it is that we've been able to create something that has organically, without having a pre-existing audience and without having like a name to kind of propel us a little bit further, like you see with some of those breakthrough projects. We're getting consistently dozens of comments on videos, which obviously is not a crazy high number, but it's enough that there's people there that we can interact with. I mean, one of the coolest moments for me was seeing the people then that this kind of small tight-knit community that's been following us for months now, taking the conversation off of the YouTube page on their own Discord channel and chatting about it and like breaking down, like taking screen grabs of things and being like, oh my god, they seeded this clue here, and like they're scrubbing like subtitles, trying to find hidden messages and like all kinds of stuff. Like they were looking at like they took I think it was Bertesky's badge number and like
trying to find
like is this a reference to a specific location that gives us a clue to the next like
I mean no
like,
but it was
all
awesome.
over the place. And it's it's a group of maybe 15 or so people that are in this other group that are like have developed their own theories of how this is going to run, and I'm actually kind of more so nervous now about living up to those theories.
Yeah.
Because some of them are like crazy elaborate that we're like, I mean, that's pretty cool, but it's not right.
Yeah, it's not where we're going with it. But like at the same time, like we know exactly where we're going with the show, and we know its ending. And I think even though it has an ending, like the series itself, like I don't think I could do 2 years of kill the week.
Right.
But and I don't think the story deserves that anyways. But like definitely like our ending is going to be fun regardless, because it'll be a big. Everything that we've done so far with our community has been interactive in some way.
Good.
So that's sort of how we've been. That's all I can say about the ending.
and that's
but it will be interactive, right? And again, like we've been doing these hacks where we hack the podcast. The serial killer herself hacks the podcast and talks to like the fans, and like we pick new subscribers every time we do a hack, and they get shout outs, very much within the vein of like a growing YouTube channel, right? Like just a standard one, but just in an interesting, creepy, more fun way, in my opinion. And it's been a lot of fun, and especially for me, it's like really nice to have like, I know only maybe 15 of our subscribers are friends.
That's
of ours.
really impressive.
Yeah, it's not too many.
Yeah, they're not.
I know my family hasn't subscribed, so and like that pisses me off a little. But also, it's really cool that we've got. Are we over 400 now?
We're like just on it. You got to get your family to.
Yeah, right.
subscribe
We're just close to 400 subscribers, and we haven't been doing a huge amount of effort to push the show, because like this is more part of what we've been doing this year is experimenting.
Mm-hmm.
And
the experiment
this has been a fun experiment.
From what I can see on Image Killer is doing well. So let's put a push. Let's see if we can get you guys over 400,000 for all my subscribers.
I keep telling
go to Image Killer on YouTube and take a listen.
You've got a few.
It's really worth it.
If they do it, I'd be happy.
Yeah,
because that would be a huge bump. That's good for our algorithm,
Yeah, exactly.
And any of our subscribers, if there's any crossover from that, subscribe to his.
Thoughts in the green room.
That's right.
I've got one more question for you guys, because it's warm in this room.
Oh, I'm doing okay.
And I'm having a great time.
It's
not too bad, but I'm thinking about it. But I've got one question. You guys have been great so far. So throwing stuff out the window for you guys directly, I've got a curiosity. Something that I've been in discussion with lately with some of my friends, is the idea that the industry has changed because education has changed around the film industry. And you guys are some of the people who have come out of a more advanced level of schooling towards the industry. Let me qualify that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
When I started in the industry, the idea of going to school for any kind of program outside of Ryerson's RTA program, which was still mostly radio and television broadcasting, was a foreign concept. Doing a student film came out of little scruffy little places, and you hoped that you might have saw something. But now, almost all the universities, colleges have some sort of program. They've worked out a system. They know what they're doing in year 1 through 4, 1 through 3, whatever it is. And people are getting an education, which results in you guys coming out of school together and starting up companies. What are your thoughts on that idea, on this changing school equaling a changing industry?
I mean, it's interesting because it's good, but none of the schools really set people up for how to actually make it in the industry. So what you end up having is, now in the city you'll have like 700 new indie filmmakers who are trying to figure out how do they get money to make a short film in the next couple of years, and then you end up having a lot of those people go, oh, well, I don't know how to do that, so I'm going to go work in accounting or something, or like find a job in insurance, or go back to school and do something else. I mean, it happened to a lot of people in my year. I'm sure you guys can say the exact same thing.
At least 50% of our year.
I would say
like the big thing.
That's even more, man.
And it's a tricky situation because you get a lot of people where it's like, oh, well, like get some assistant jobs or get some get into a studio or a production company or something. But those places often are a little more, the places that you can get into with just a film school degree are typically there's not really any advancement opportunities in it. So you'll end up being the assistant forever, and then because you haven't done anything of your own, they're like, oh, well, we're not going to give you the funding to do a web series because you haven't done anything on your own to prove yourself. You technically got all the experience, and so it's a good thing in the sense that you've got a whole bunch of people that are qualified to do these things, but none of them have actually done it.
Right.
And that I think was kind of part of our big kind of reality hit when we were doing our TV show, which was we had done shorts, we had done a little bit of web series work. Like I've done some associate producing on a bunch of bigger web series that have shot here in Toronto. And so, you know, even I had a higher level of confidence going into that, because it's like, oh, I can now apply all the things I learned, like all the stuff I've learned writing on our own internally and everything. And, you know, you kind of get slapped in the face with the realities of like, no, you were creating from literally nothing, and doing that in itself, you know, it's very different than when you just have a 5-minute short to think about versus now you've got 140 minutes to think about.
Yeah,
Right.
Exactly. And we did a mini series too. We didn't even do a full like 12 episode series. We did like a 5-episode mini series, and that was a big eye opener. You know, because again, I would agree with Mike. I mean, I'm sure Nick would mirror what I'm saying as well. Is that, you know, like for us, like in terms of like changing the industry, I don't know so much if schools change the industry or whether technology has changed the industry more. Because like for us, like in terms of just coming off what Michael was saying about, you know, people ending up as accountants after having gone to film school, you know, like I can honestly say that I out of a class of 50 graduating students in our year, it was me, Nick, and like 5, 6, 10 other people who are still working in the industry.
Right.
So that I know of. I might be a little bit higher, but in terms of like maybe 10 to 15 of us are still working in the industry, and maybe 5 to 8 of us are still working towards what we want to do in the industry and what we trained to do in the industry. Because, you know, like for me, like I could have easily gotten lost in VFX, because like I didn't go to school for that. I'm self-taught, but I got a job at a studio. I ended up being one of their best compositors and like a lead.
Right.
And then, then we got this TV show. And I was like, goodbye. But like, I know, you know, stuff happens. Like life happens. You know, like I'm married now. I'm gonna have my kid's not on its way yet, but like it will be in the next few years. You know, like life happens, and then you have bills to pay, and you have a house to pay for, and or an apartment to rent. Right. You know, and you know, a lot of us and a lot of the filmmakers now coming out of film school end up in commercial because it pays well, and you have normal human hours. And it really
not even commercial, just corporate.
Yeah, corporate. Yeah, you're right.
Because commercial, there's a lot of lateral movement in that you're
right. You're right.
You're now trained on like, oh, here's $100,000, but you're really 30 seconds of material, right. And it's that type of dealing with budgets at that scale for that minimal amount of content.
You're right.
Yeah. There is a little more, at least from what I've seen, there is some lateral movements of people that can shift over and do bigger things because they're already used to working with the big unions, they've met all the big, you know, production managers and know how to get that type of machine up and running.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. You're totally right.
Which is tricky when you're used to the indie level. I think the biggest thing that kneecapped us in our show. I mean, we're shitting on it so much, but like it wasn't that bad. But like
it's a growing project.
It was a growing project.
Yeah,
like,
growth. Like there's growth in that.
The big thing was like, we didn't respect the idea of how much that we saw the amount of content in there and thought we need to fill it with as much of like the big ideas that we can. We didn't treat it like the same way that we were treating kind of 5-minute shorts, where it's you still only have to focus on the personal moments within and not worry about the whole world outside of this room, right? Like, you know, and we tried to show off too much, I think, of the world in terms of how we were writing it, and then that, you know, inevitably leads to issues later where you're like, oh, we need to find like all these more locations and, you know, these many more actors and these many more VFX shots and
bigger.
Yeah, exactly. Like it just really snowballs very
quickly.
Yeah,
there was 450 VFX shots in that series.
Wow, that sounds excessive.
300 of them in one episode.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. Now, you guys have, in a nutshell, what I'm hearing on that topic is that we got a lot of people who are coming out qualified to do the job, but not necessarily the knowledge of how to get themselves into the job. And you guys, through trial and error, primarily have lasted for 10 years or so and started to grow yourselves. But you're also learning on the job as you go. It's not everything you learn from school.
Yeah,
bam,
because
we're here.
there's been a bunch of places where I've wanted to stop.
Right.
And a bunch of points in our path as a team, even where I've been like, I'm so ready to just quit.
Actually,
But I'm insane and can't stop.
yeah, I think like to go back to your question on the education, I think I obviously can't speak for every school. We all went through it. But with regards to like the education that's kind of in place for it, it's like 90% craft and only 10% business.
Right.
So you come out and like, yeah, you'll be very qualified. Like, oh yes, you know how to format, you know how to shoot, you know how to direct. But from my personal experience, like the business side of things, for me, because I started off in camera and lighting, was just go join the union. Oh well, how do you get into the union? Oh well, just
Go get you.
it's just
You have
go
to
do
do
it.
other stuff. Yeah.
And that's it.
And yeah, it's a little disheartening. Like film school is, I would say it's nice, but it's not necessary. As long as you're motivated to actually go out and put the time in.
Well, it's just if you're not in a place where you can knock on someone's door and you know that they'll open it, the learning, the knowledge that you get from school and honing your own craft is kind of worthless because you can't get it to someone who's going to actually help you build the machine to actually get that project off the ground.
What you're speaking about there is something as an actor, I experienced the same thing. 90% craft, 10% business through all of my years of schooling. You go out and like, I can act anywhere I want to, but how do I get in the door to act?
Yeah.
Who do I go talk to?
Oh man, my greatest asset's been the fact that my father's a lawyer. In terms of understanding contracts, even like the producing side of things. When I'm producing, I do a lot. I look at look at almost every single contract that we do, and I if I have a question like, Dad, what the fuck does this mean? And it definitely is like that's just completely by coincidence.
But yeah,
that I have that asset.
But you had to do that on your own. Like when we were in school, there wasn't like, okay, you're going to have to do a short. Do you have your permits? Do you have your
No,
contract?
exactly.
Do you have your
Yeah,
insurance.
it's
And honestly, I think that's what we kind of really honed in on the last 10 years. Is we've always kind of wanted to tell the same stories, but like the actual methods of how to get, and basically with like small companies, you have to get running every time because you staff them with all your employees and you distribution, everything, and your sales and whatever. It's just like getting the method of like how to get up and running. We've just gotten better. You get better and faster at it.
Right.
It
You've
becomes
learned,
easier.
and you've learned how to apply that model over and over, and you guys are going to grow
Yeah, you refine it.
and there is, and I would say like one
efficiency.
thing. Yeah, and actually, in fact, one thing that I can just kind of say to cap all this off is that there is some truth, even though we've been shitting on it for like the last 15 minutes, but like there is some truth to the going out and doing it. In that, there is value to momentum.
Absolutely.
Which is if you are out there trying to do it, even if because that's what we've been doing. Like I can say that honestly, we've been trying to be filmmakers for a very long time, and you kind of will learn. Like I wish I was taught all these things, but at the same time, like we've learned a lot just by trying. And at the same, and as well, like even that's how I sort of approach every project that we do now, which is like you can delay the day that you shoot, but I'm always trying to make sure that there's something. We're building on what we have, and we're moving forward on things that we can move forward on, because then it gets done.
Yes.
Because like I've learned that and that's something that I've learned from VFX, which because you can get overloaded, which is what's happened to me many times before in the past. And then what you do is you find what you can work on, and then you just work on that. And so that's how we've been approaching the short that we're shooting. Soon.
You said trying in there a number of times, but I think the reality is with the length of time you guys have been around, you've been building on each successive experience.
I mean, if you want to say it like
yeah, there is no try, only do.
Yeah, that's true.
Sure.
Just to add on what James says, it also comes down to like at the end of the day, film is a craft.
Yeah.
It's like you can't just sit and like sculpt your perfect script and like wait until you make like until you have like the perfect project all planned out. It's not. It's trial and error.
Yeah.
As long as your next project is better than the last one. It's like you're like, oh, I'm gonna go be a chef, but I don't want to try and cook anything until I have a perfect recipe down.
Yeah, it doesn't work
Doesn't
that
make
way.
any sense.
Yeah, you're right. I would totally agree with you on there.
You guys have said something. I'm curious about this. Technology played in this answer at various points.
Yep.
And I'm curious. You guys are obviously good with technology of today, and if you're not good with today's technology, you're screwed. But if you had to take away your technology and go back to the film world in terms of literal film versus digital technology, do you think that would have been an easier experience to be doing this, the same experience, or an entirely harder experience?
It definitely would have been an easier experience in my opinion, because you have less people that call themselves filmmakers when they've got a Canon
That's
T2i.
true. That's
Right.
true.
That is that. Yeah.
So if you're someone like we were taught on 16 millimeter like hand splicing film, for our first year of university, and I mean if we continued that throughout and film was still the go-to medium, I mean you'd come out of school with a more transferable, technical, marketable skill.
Right.
Yeah, like loading a 16 millimeter mag in a
Without ruining
dark
the
mag
film,
is-
yeah,
like
it's not something you just pick up.
Yeah, and
Well,
like,
you-
you know how to
you can, but,
properly
like,
take your
know
light
how to do it.
light readings and stuff. You know, like
Yeah.
even this, it's like it's auto kind of doing
Yeah.
everything. But
Yeah.
like knowing like, oh yeah, this is an f5.6. Like I'm just gonna put this in the camera here and set my film. This like learning kind of those things, and not to say that they're not useful in today's modern era, but you know we some of the stories that I remember hearing in our like Canadian cinema classes were like they started up the National Film Board, and the big directors of the time were people that were like, yeah, I kind of want to try film, and they just literally walked in and went, do you guys need directors? And they were like, yeah, here's a check. Like,
yeah.
No, because that
Like-
doesn't happen.
yeah, because it's like,
No,
because
yeah.
they were just trying to start things up, and they just needed people to want to do this.
Right.
Whereas now there's so many people that are like, oh yeah, like I had shot a little thing skits on an iPhone in high school, so like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna try and get in there. And so I find even when I'm talking to older producers, a lot of times they're trying to suss out like, are you an iPhone kid or are you someone who knows their shit?
Right.
Yeah, it's like buying a camera doesn't make you a cinematographer.
Oh, do I
Yeah,
know
and
that?
so it's a lot of, you know, you end up adding more barriers
I bought one.
with that more
Sold
accessible technology, even though it is a good thing because
Yeah.
the people that actually want to do it can.
And it's a
and
double-edged
they-
sword.
Yeah,
You know, there's more access to technology. It's cheaper. It's less of a barrier for people who do know how to do it, but don't necessarily have the budget, right?
Mhm.
But at the same time, I would agree with you that there's a lot of filmmakers,
Right. Saturation.
and there is an oversaturation, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either. It just makes things different. I don't think of things anymore as like bad or good. It's different. It's different than it used to be, and it'll be
Yeah.
different than it used to be 10 years from now. And it's
I
gonna be
agree with you
different.
fully on that one.
And there's going to be different challenges every decade. There'll be different challenges every new prime minister. Different challenges.
Yeah.
Different. Someone's going to be different, and you just kind of have to be. You just got to try to navigate that.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Before we roll into the politic
Oh, I
questions,
wasn't even.
I'm going to stop you
Nah,
right there.
not even.
And with that said, I think that's a good spot to bring us to a close. This has been great, guys.
Awesome.
yeah. Thanks for
Spiderclown
having us.
Studio,
Yep.
all around me here. I'm Jeff Mays, your host of Thoughts from the Green Room, the first interview version of it ever. We'll do it again depending on what this turns out like when we upload it to the YouTube. Until then, see you in a couple weeks.
These are all likes.
Yeah, these are the thumbs up. Wait, there's going to be one. There's always one.
Yeah.
It's always
There's
one.
always one. There's always
Let's
one
do a
guy.
big one.